was going to be a story time about the time that I was 15 and pregnant. So this was a little bit ago because I am now 21 years old. So this was, it was, okay, so let's just jump into the story. So, a little bit of a background, I guess you guys could say. So my dad was not the greatest dad. I mean, I'm sure there were far worse, but by far not the greatest at all whatsoever. So he was really abusive, and by abusive I do mean like physically and mentally abusive. So that didn't help at all. So while I was living with him, it was only him. My mom lives in Florida, and me and my mom haven't really been in touch that much. Like ever since I was little, it's been that way. So whatever. I grew up around my dad, right? Okay. So, I wasn't allowed to date. I wasn't allowed to have a phone. I wasn't allowed to have any social media. Um, so it, my life sucked. Like, I didn't have any high school experiences. I didn't get to go out and be with my friends. Like, my dad had very high standards for me. And not only me, because I have other siblings. So, it was like for all of us that lived with him. So, I would get in trouble if I had a B, let alone a C, a D, or an F. So my dad expected all A's and the slightest one B maybe. So that's just kind of a little bit of background. He was very strict, very, very strict. In his head, not in his head, like he told me, like I was never allowed to date until I graduated college. College, not high school, college. So it was a very crazy experience in my life, which I'll get into in another story time. But so that so the way I had a boyfriends was I would hide them from him, and yes, most of the time I got caught because I'm dumb. Because there was a time where he did give me a phone, and he would monitor it. Either he would like come to me and he'd take it away, and then he'd go through it. So I'm like anywhere from like 13 years old up until 15 years old. So between those ages, it was kind of okay, so to me, the more he said not to do something, the more he said not to take it. Not like the more he took things away from me, is the more I wanted to do them and I wanted to experience them, because I am a teenager. Like I was a teenager. I felt left out because I wasn't able to go to parties. I wasn't able to go to prom. I wasn't able to do all the stuff that regular kids are doing around me. So it sucked. But I wanted to do it so bad that I did, and I did it behind his back. A lot of the times I got caught, but one time in particular I got caught. Again, he was abusive, so he did what he did, which then caused me to run away. So at that time I didn't know I was pregnant, but I was. So I ran away. The police got involved. Long story short, I went to a friend of the family's house, and I got to stay there for a little bit, and didn't tell them I was pregnant. They didn't know I was pregnant. When they found out I was pregnant, they then sent me to a group home. Now, this group home wasn't really a group home. So, my grandma is one of the most protective people, most loving, caring, genuine person I have ever met in my whole entire life, and I love her to death. And we have like an on and off relationship all the time, but she found out I was in this group home, and she called me in there, and this is a really strict place that I was at. So she found out I was in this place, and when she found out, she called me. And in this place, I'm not allowed to have a phone. I'm not allowed to leave this group home at all. Like, they have it gated and people are watching us. Like, it was crazy. So the only way to use the phone is one of the people that worked there had to answer it, ask who it was, make sure it was someone on your list that is approved to talk to you. So it's a very strict place I was in. So one day she called me, and I think she knew I was pregnant at this time. Yeah, so she knew I was pregnant, and she called me and she said, "Crystal, do you know where you're at?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm in a group home. It's somewhere in Phoenix, you know?" And she's like, "No, do you know where you're at?" I was like, "In a group home in Phoenix." You know? I was like, she's like, "What is it called?" I was like, "Streetlight USA." "Okay, do you know where you're at?" "No, I don't know. What are you talking about? Like, what do you mean?" You know, like, she was confusing me. Like, "I know I'm in a group home." She's like, "Crystal, this is a safe house for prostitutes." I was like, "What? What do you mean? Like, why am I here?" Because I'm not, you know, that's not me. That's not. So, long story short, apparently why I was put there is because they said that none of the actual group homes had any beds available, and the only bed that was available was at that location. So, when my grandma found that out, she did everything in her power to try and get me away from there. So, I remember it was Cinco de Mayo and of 2016. No, 2015. 2016? 2016. It was Cinco de Mayo of 2016. No, 2015. Yeah, 2015. So it was Cinco de Mayo of 2015, and they told me, "Crystal, pack up all your stuff. You're gonna go somewhere else." So I was like, "Okay." And I had just gotten back from an ultrasound appointment, and I was tiny. Like, I'll try and insert pictures of how I was, because at this place we were like set meals. Like, we didn't go out and get like pizza, Little Caesars, McDonald's. Like, we didn't go out and do that. No, we had like ham and cheese sandwiches every day for lunch. For breakfast, we had these little tiny muffins or little things of cereal. And every once in a while, they'll have someone come to the place that we were in and do like educational things. And then we would have like hot dogs and hamburgers. But that was very rare, maybe twice that I was there. And so yeah, anyway, so they told me I was going to a different location, and this location was an actual group home. So I was like, oh, thank God. So, because you guys, literally no joke, while I was here, people, sometimes they knew I was pregnant, sometimes they didn't know I was pregnant, but it was constantly fighting every single day, constantly saying, "Hey, go jump the fence, go to the store on the corner and get me the cigarettes, these alcohol, these, you know, whatever they wanted, or we'll beat you up." And I was like, and their model was like, "Okay, you're pregnant, but your face isn't pregnant, right?" And I wasn't out there being like, "I'm pregnant, you can't touch me." No, I was like, "Don't fucking talk to me, because I don't want to deal with it right now." So I was really like, I stuck to myself, and I just tried to keep myself, but you know, there was times that people came up to me, and obviously I had to do what I had to do. So that was that. So long story short, I was happy to be out of there, because at the end of the day, I was pregnant, and I cared for the safety of not only myself but the baby, because they weren't always fighting fair, you know. So I got moved to this place, and it was so good, but as good as it can be for being in a group home, which isn't ideal for anybody. So it was good on the terms that they had like we weren't allowed to leave the house, but you make your own food. You get, if you wanted to go get a pizza, get McDonald's, you can go with permission, and they will take you there. were able to have your family, you were able to have a phone. It was restricted. You did have certain times that you were allowed to use it, and you had to give it to them before you were going to sleep. But at least, you know, it was better than the last place I was at. So at this place is where they took really good care of me as far as meals, prenatal vitamins, going to all my appointments, and yeah, so in this place is it's like during the time that I found out the gender of my baby, which is a baby boy. But now he's huge, and now he's 3 years old, about to be 4 in October. So I stayed there, and I stayed there for quite a bit of time, like a couple months. And it was good. I mean, every place is gonna have their drama, their fights, their whatever. But for the most part, it was pretty good. Like I said, for a group home. So during this whole process, you know, I'm pregnant, I'm getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So the whole time that I was there, the staff was really great, you know, taking me to all my appointments and stuff. So I don't exactly remember how far along I was whenever I found out, or like the month that I found out, but I found out and it was a boy, and I was so happy. It is what I wanted. So yeah, and not long after, my grandma kept in contact with me. She would visit me all the time, and I'm in Arizona and she lives in California, so you know, she's not young, so it was a lot for her to do, and I'm so thankful for it. And while this whole time that I'm in there, she's constantly trying to get me to a different family member so I can get to her. So it was a long process. During this whole time, I am a custody of the state because I am in CPS, and I was at the time 15, and then I did turn 16 while I was in this group home. So when I got, and okay, so mind you also, I'm not in school at all. We weren't in school, so I was just there. So it was interesting time. So the time that I did get out, I was finally able to be with family, and that would be my aunt, my uncle, and my cousins, you know. So when I did get out, I eventually did go into high school, you know, public high school. I went to what is it called, Buckeye Union High School. So while I was there, I was pregnant, and when I got there, people didn't know I was pregnant because I didn't start showing until I was like 7 or 8 months. So I was very tiny. So I got there, I did all my schoolwork, I was doing so good. So while I was going to Buckeye, I ended up, you know, I had my baby. So I had my baby. So while I was in the actual delivery room giving birth, Shh, Mommy's talking.
Mama talk to you like boys.
Okay, hold on. So how it'll happen, so my water broke, and right once my water broke, I went to the hospital, and I was there for 32 hours before I gave birth because my water did break, but I wasn't contracting. So they did have to put me on Pitocin, and I did get the epidural. So right once they put me on Pitocin, it wasn't even like 30 minutes later, the doctor came in and he said push, and 2 pushes later he was out. And yeah, so it was a long time, but it was all worth it for this handsome boy right here. I couldn't be happier with him, and he's just one of the 4 loves of my life that I will ever have.
And
right, baby?
Sophia too.
Yeah, Sophia and Bella too.
Yeah.
And Daddy too, right?
Yeah. And everybody in this house
And
is gonna be Wallace house, right?
yeah.
And our house is at work.
Oh, okay. Can I have kisses?
Yeah.
Okay. I love you. Oh. Okay. 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 Thank you, my love. I love you so much.
Yeah.
So, that is it. Long story short, actually long story long, kind of, with a little bit of shorts. That is the time that I was 15 and pregnant, had him at 16, couldn't be happier, and here I am at 21 years old with 3 kids altogether, and I couldn't be happier.
As always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Also, turn on you guys' bell notifications. Thank you guys if you stuck all the way to the end. And yeah, see you guys next time.